Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, grade 10. So this is a continuation of module 2. We were discussing earlier about the parts of a computer system. So I just started without you guys because tawag dito, I would understand if you do not participate in the online classes because I know it's hard for you, at this time it's very good for napping and also we are all fasting, so it is okay. Anyway, so let's continue. This is the second component of a computer system. So earlier we were talking about the hardware, and now we are talking about the software. So hardware, just a recall that hardware is the physical parts or the tangible parts of a computer. Again, hardware is tangible. Okay, so software now is the intangible part, meaning you cannot touch it. Wala, no? Hindi mo siya makita, hindi mo siya hawakan. It's intangible. So software are the programs or applications within the computer. As I have mentioned earlier as well, there are some debates in the, IT industry and computer technology in general. Which one is important? Is it the hardware? Is it the software? Because apparently, if there is no software, it's just a piece of metal. Technically, yes, right? But then, kung wala namang hardware, it's just a piece of code. Paano tatakbo yung software? So it really comes hand in hand. All these components, they come hand in hand, and one could not work without the other. So that is the components of a computer system. So software is the programs or applications within the computer. Hindi lang ito yung alam natin, no? Hindi lang ito yung nakikita natin all the time. Like for example, same as in your smartphones. Hindi lang ito yung nada-download natin sa Play Store. There are a lot of application software within your smartphones that are predefined or pre-installed. Even the camera application that comes with your smartphone, hindi mo na kailangang i-download, nandyan na dati sa mga smartphone nyo. You feel as if that is like predefined, right? But then it's just the same as any other applications that you are downloading and installing into your smartphones. It's just an application. So your smartphone is filled with different types of software applications. So yung tinatawag nating operating system, that is a type of software. So let's go and define what are the types of software. We have system software and application software. So on system software, it consists of the operating system and utilities. Ano yung utilities teach? The things that makes the inside of a computer work. Like for example, even the BIOS has its own utility system. Boot up system has its own utility system. Before pa i-load, because this is what happens when you push the power button of a computer system. Kahit laptop na lang ang isipin ninyo, because I'm not sure if you have been using a computer system, pero kung mahilig kayo sa internetan, pumupunta kayo sa mga internet cafe, then of course you usually, pero laging laging nang naka-on yung mga yung mga computer sa internet cafe, so you don't have to push the on button, the power on button. But what happens is that, for example, whatever it is, it may be a laptop or computer, di ba pag pindutin nyo magtunog siya, it's a beep, a one beep. That beep is the boot up system. It is a utility system. At ang ginagawa niya ay i-check lahat ng component sa loob ng motherboard. That is even before na-load, because ang operating system, guys, is nakasave siya or nakastore siya sa iyong hard disk drive. Why? Because you cannot save it in the RAM. Again, as we have mentioned earlier, RAM is a volatile storage device. Once you have take off or taken out the power source of the computer, ma-delete na yung nandoon. So, ibig sabihin, it is stored in the hard disk drive or the solid state drive of the computer, yung ating operating system. So, paano nag-run ang computer na ilo-load pa lang? No, galing pa sa hard drive. Remember in the overview of the the system unit earlier, ang hard drive is in the front of the system unit. Hindi siya kasali sa motherboard. Wala siya dun sa board. But it is connected via SATA. SATA is a type of connecting cable. So, ibig sabihin, ilo-load pa ng boot up utility system ang operating system from the hard disk papunta sa RAM at sa kanya ira-run ang kung anumang operating system ang nakasave sa iyong computer. Whether that may be Windows, I don't know, Mac OS, Linux, yung mga different types of operating system. So itong utilities, guys, it is very, very important. That is why sometimes, no, hindi nag-run ang computer, but then, when you take out the hard drive and put it on a different computer, apparently it works. So you'll be like, what's the problem? So apparently it's not the operating system, but rather probably hardware or a utility system. Okay? Another type of system software na hindi ko na ilagay dito or hindi kasali sa diagram na ito ay networking system. Specific operating system or NOS, network operating system or NOS, no, NOS, specific operating system for routers. Kasi kahit sila, meron silang operating system at iba ang itsura ng operating system nila kaysa sa Windows, kaysa sa Linux. I am not sure again of what type of operating system you have been using or you have experience using, but most probably Windows. I am not sure kung sino merong mga MacBook dito. So kung meron kayong MacBook, you probably, was able to use Mac OS or open source na mga operating systems such as Linux, Ubuntu, Red Hat, some operating systems that are free. Hindi tulad ng Mac OS at saka hindi tulad ng Windows na proprietary. So binabayaran mo yung mga operating systems na yun. So anyway, so that is a system software. Again, we have different types like operating system, utilities, and network operating system. Meron pa nga tayong tinatawag na firmware system. Ano na naman yung firmware system, Teach? Because even the chips, the different microchips inside the computer, kanina ano lang ba yung napag-usapan natin ng microchips? We have the RAM. Although RAM is a storage, so wala siyang firmware system. But still, it has a mechanism inside. We have the EEPROM, or this is the BIOS, the chip. So it has its own firmware system. And then we also have, of course, the central processing unit. Meron siyang sarili niyang firmware system. The NIC, or the network interface chip. Ito yung ginagamit ng computer para makakonect siya sa mga Wi-Fi, no? And that is why yung mga ibang system unit, it doesn't have a built-in NIC or network interface chip. That is why kailangan mo siyang ikabit via cable. So, via wired ang connection niya. Pero ang NIC, kung merong NIC ang iyong laptop, of course, laptop is wireless, right? Meron siya talagang NIC sa loob. So, kung merong NIC, that NIC has its own firmware system. It works. That is why kung masira yung NIC, hindi nasisira yung buong laptop, right? Because it has its own firmware system. Okay? So, those are, again, different types of system software. Now, ano naman ang application software? Application software is with application. Okay? Okay, Teach, thank you. Application software is, literally with application. Like, for example, calculator is an application software. Camera is an application software. Power on and off buttons are application software. It has a specific task. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng application software. But somehow, sometimes, application software can be generalized packages. Like, for example, Microsoft Suite. So, meron siyang Word, meron siyang Excel, PowerPoint, Visio, Publisher, I don't know kung ano pa yung mga iba. It belongs to a generalized package. It is one package pero marami ng application software sa loob ng yon, no? At meron naman tayong tinatawag na customized packages. Ang customized packages is specifically built for a specific purpose. Just like, for example, a accounting management system, which is specifically made for an accounting management system sa isang company. Because every other company, hindi pare-pareho ang accounting management system nila. Or, sino na ang nakatry dito ng RFID natin dati? Sino nga yung mga nakatry ng RFID dati dito? Can you still remember nung merong RFID yung mga ID ninyo? That is a very specific customized package so that it can handle the data in our school. That is a customized package. So all of the things actually that you see on your smartphones, aside from the operating system and of course the other utility systems, are application software. Kaya nga, ang tawag sa kanya ay apps. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng apps actually. It's a short term for application software. Okay? So yun ang ating mga different types of software. So just a little bit of different types of operating system. Ito sila yung mga malalakas na operating system sa buong mundo. They said no that natalo na ng Linux ang Microsoft Windows, but I'm not sure with that. I think Windows is still one of the best or one of the most used operating system in the world. But apparently, NASA, ang ginagamit nila na operating system doon sa kanilang mga computers is Linux, which is a free operating system yan. So you can download if you really want to, guys. Kung sino yung mga, malay natin, di ba? May mga, ano pala dito, nagbabalak mag-computer science or mag-computer engineering or I don't know, anything that is related with computer science. You can actually download the program of Linux. If you really want to, you can search for it, and then you will see the entire codes. And that is why open source siya, because anybody could contribute to it. If you are a programmer, if you know something about programming, you can contribute, you can suggest, you can have your own functionality added into the entire operating system. It's an entire community ang nag-fix ng bugs, ang nakakakita ng bugs, nag-upgrade ng Linux. And not just Linux, every other free operating systems like open source na mga operating system like yun nga Ubuntu, Red Hat, no? And actually, nagkaroon lang ito sila ng free open source operating systems is because they wanted to topple down Windows. Because at that time, meron yung time, di ba? I'm not sure kung buhay na kayo at that time, yung bang ilang taon na si Bill Gates parati ang most, richest person in the whole world. For how many years? He was the richest person in the whole world because of Microsoft empire. And then, people, other programmers, they'd be like, why is it na kailangan natin magbayad sa operating system when it can be free? And that is why they moved for this agenda, which is the free and open source operating systems. Anyway, so we have Mac OS. I really am not sure with Mac OS. If I'm not mistaken, mga miming itong mga miming ang kanilang OS. I'm not mistaken. Like for example, meron yung Leopard. Ayan, di ba? Operating system nila, Cheetah, Puma, Jaguar, Panther, Tiger, Leopard, Snow Leopard. Puro mga, nagbago na. Last na yung Mountain Lion. Too bad. After ng Mountain Lion, napunta na sa Mavericks, Yosemite, El Capitan. I don't know what this is. Hindi ko na alam yung nila. Yung tawag dito. Are these like landscapes? Sierra, High Sierra. Big Sur, I don't know, or places. So, pinalitan na nila yung pangalan ng mga Mac OS. And we also have iOS, yun nga para sa iPhone, and we have Android. Android is free, open source din siya. Kung gusto nyo magpalit, again, kung gusto nyo tingnan yung code, you can search for it. And we have the BSD OS, or, what is this? I don't know what this is. Server, okay. Guys, iba rin ang operating system ng server, but later pa natin yan siya pag-usapan because wala pa tayo nakaabot sa networking. But I think malapit na. Okay, so those are the different types of operating systems that are existing as of today. So last component of a computer system, meron na siyang hardware, meron na siyang software. Does it work on its own? No, the computer cannot think on its own. Although, you can click something and then have a predefined function and then ibabalik-balik niya yun or i-loop niya. So it works. But then, in reality, just turning on the computer, it cannot turn on itself. Although, meron ng mga computer ngayon na, walang tao. No human intervention needed. Like, meron na rin siyang automatic, tawag dito. Like, for example, yung mga generator sa airport, like, pag nagkaroon ng power outage, automatically merong mag-turn on ng mga backup systems. So, yeah, walang human intervention doon. Yes, you can say na walang user sa mga system na yun. But then, in reality, meron pa rin. Because, sino ba ang nag-program nun? Still tao, right? So, liveware is another component of the entire computer system. And once again, it is as important as the other two. Okay? So, sino ang liveware or ano ang liveware? It's you. It's this guy. It's you, me, whoever uses the computer. Regardless of the position, regardless of education, race, etc. Regardless of anything, for as long as it is a person who uses the computer, it is a liveware. Aside from that, the liveware can also be another system or a website or a function inside the computer itself. Yun na nga, no? Pwedeng another system ang mag-trigger ng another system. So those are all considered liveware. But liveware usually is pertaining to the person. And one of the things, or one of the biggest problems of IT managers or IS, Information Systems Managers, is the liveware. Bakit kaya, guys? Mas mahirap i-maintain ang liveware kaysa sa software at saka sa hardware. Why do you think so? Ooh, nice. Yes. Yes, kasi hindi daw mag-operate. Unpredictable, yes. Iba-ibang ugali, iba-ibang perception, iba-ibang mood. Minsan, binabaling yung galit sa computer. Diba? Nakita mo yung mga gamers sa internetan? Ilang keyboard at ilang mouse ang nabasag nila, ang nasira nila, no? So, alam mo yun, gumagana naman sana yung mouse. But because of the liveware, you know, at alam niya naman, actually, itong liveware, sometimes they know how to use the computer, right? But then, different factors affects them on how they use the computer. Meron ding time na human error lang talaga. Like for example, di ba may tendency tayo na pag may error na nagpop up sa screen, we just simply cancel things. And then apparently, important pala yun. It's simple as that. It could ruin the entire computer system. So that is why it is really hard to maintain a liveware. And it's especially when it comes to liveware na matigas ang ulo or ayaw tumanggap ng opinion or ayaw tumanggap ng bagong information or someone that is, just really stubborn. And feeling nila sila lang yung nakakaalam kung paano gumamit ng computer. So it's really hard to maintain the liveware. At least ang hardware, diba? Hindi mo man siya makausap, hindi mo yan magpalag. No? Gawin mo lang yung dapat gawin mo sa kanya. Okay na yan siya. No? Kunting linis lang yan, kunting huyop-huyop, okay na siya. Operating system, you can just simply reformat things. Goodbye lang sa mga files mo. But no, you can reformat them. Pero ang liveware, subukan mo i-reformat ang liveware. Cannot be. It's really hard. No? Anyway, different interpretations as well. And sometimes even different languages. There are really communication barriers and different things. Kahit nga minsan, Pilipino na tayo pareho, nagkakaroon pa ng miscommunication. So liveware is very difficult to handle. And especially, because let's just admit, sometimes iba yung utak ng tao na IT, aside from average users. And that is also one of the reasons why we pushed for computer para sa inyo na grade 10, because we wanted you to become a very good liveware, in the future. And somebody who is a, media and information literate individual that will be able to understand that there is a mechanism and will understand that there are things that you do not know. And therefore, if you do not know, then you get some information so that you will have knowledge. Okay? So those are, again, the components of a computer system: hardware, the physical parts. They have the software, the intangible parts, usually the programs inside the computer, and the liveware. Those are the users of the computer system. So any questions so far sa lesson 1 ng module 2? Do you have any questions, guys? You can type in the chat box. By the way, again, group 1 na lang ang hindi nakasubmit ng performance task for what do you call this one? Module 1. So if anybody here, meron ba? Si mo alam, group 1 ka. So sino ba ibang group 1? Naje, you are also group 1. And Naje is here. So Naje knows, okay. Up until today lang, guys. Oh, by the way, guys, speaking of ganito yung mga groupings, just make sure that you at least try to help. Be a good liveware nga. Like for example, I am not sure, because this is the only time that we will have groupings. I don't know, actually. I don't know kung magkakaroon pa tayo ng groupings in the future. But just try to be, as much as possible, be participative and cooperative when it comes to, groupings and team effort. So, as much as possible. Alam nyo guys, kahit presence lang, kahit magtanong lang kayo sa kasama niyo, uy, kamusta na yung it's already, a participation. At least, na-remind mo siya or kahit man lang natanong mo siya, it helps. Okay, moving on. Lesson 2, we have basic concepts of networking. Now, why is this included in the computer system? Because computer systems cannot stand alone nowadays. Wala na. Wala nang, hindi naman sa wala na, grabe ako maka-generalize, but, most of the computer systems cannot stand alone nowadays. It is either connected to the internet or connected to a specific network. Malimit. Paka-rare na ata ngayon ng computer system na hindi nakakabit or nakakonect sa isang network. Okay? Although meron pa rin, but then, most of us are now connected to the internet. And what is an internet? Internet is just a network of computers. Okay, we will get to that eventually later on. So, computer networking is the practice of connecting computers together to enable communication and data exchange between them. Okay, so ganito kasi yan guys, dati nung nagkaroon na ng personal computers and we were able to use it in offices and whatnot. But then, nagkaroon sila ng issue sa data exchange and data transfer. Because nga, dati guys, wala pang USB. Sorry, wala pang flash drive. No? And floppy disks pa. And I'm not sure kung nakakita na kayo ng floppy disk, pero malaki na ang 128 KB na file na ma-save nyo dyan. I am not sure kung tinitingnan nyo yung mga ginagawa nyo guys ng mga document or image. Kahit isang image siguro dyan sa cellphone ninyo, just try to look at the details and see the size. And try to look at the size of the image. I think it is more than 128 kilobytes. So imagine before, ang floppy disk is 128 kilobytes. Ano ang ma-save mo doon? Di ba masakit lang sa ulo konti? And then in a certain office, probably more than 128 kilobytes ang transfer nila or nagda-data exchange sila. So how are we going to do this? Balik-balik ang floppy disk ngayon. Okay? So nagkakaroon ng human error sometimes. Nakaka-delete ng file. In-update sa kabilang computer, pag-send sa other computer, iba pala yung na-send na file. A lot of things, a lot of confusion. No? Nagkaroon ng maraming miscommunication and conflicts, loss of data, valuable data. So they were like, what if hayaan na natin yung mga computer sila mismo ang mag-usap? So we have to have a connection. And the first ever connection that was made is between two computers and connected by a cable, which is called the UTP wire. UTP wire. Kahit huwag nyo na masyadong isipin kung ano yung UTP wire, guys. UTP means unshielded twisted pair. Huwag nyo na rin masyadong isipin. Basta UTP wire ang tawag dito. Ethernet cable ang tinatawag natin dyan ngayon. I'm not sure kung narinig nyo rin Ethernet cable. But anyway, that is it. So peer-to-peer ang tawag doon. Why? Because a computer system connected to another computer system. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng peer-to-peer. So they can now exchange files directly. Wala nang human intervention, hindi na kailangan ng floppy disk, just directly to one another. Meron ng computer network doon sa loob niya na makikita niya yung computer 1 at yung computer 1 naman makikita niya yung computer 2. Now, the thing about peer-to-peer networks, okay, malaki na masyado ang 12. Malaki na masyado ang 12 na units sa isang peer-to-peer network because imagine nyo na lang yung spaghetti cable na mangyari. Tingnan nyo dito tignan nyo itong image na ito. Dito pa lang kung isipin niyo, kailangan magkakatabi ang computer or really within an office. Kasi kung hindi, masyadong mahaba ng mga cables ang gagamitin natin tulad ng nakita nyo sa school. That is what we call the spaghetti cable, no? Yung ba nakita nyo sa school? Like, I'm not sure kung nakita niyo, but yeah, that is a very example of not so very good infrastructure. Although hindi ko masisisi ang school because nga, we are trying to make things work and we don't have like an IT network expert talaga na as in, kuan siya, no? Tawag dito, very expertise niya talaga ang networking. And even then, because before I tried to suggest an infrastructure, mahirap because the budget, marami ang babaguhin, marami ang gagawin kung maggawa tayo ng infrastructure within the school na magkaroon ng internet connection bawat classroom. So it's really hard. So anyway, a peer-to-peer network is that you have to connect each units to each other. So just imagine the cables, the wirings that is needed so that each computer will be connected to each other. So yun na lang isipin niyo. And by the way guys, a computer unit can only have one Ethernet port or yung LAN network na port. So really hard to set up a peer-to-peer network. Although before, it is the only choice that they have because wala pa nga yung mga ibang technology na meron tayo these days. Now, later on, karoon ng client-server network. By the way, guys, I forgot to mention, if a computer unit is already connected to a certain network, it is now called a node. One computer unit inside the network is called a node. Okay? Kung sino dito yung gustong mag-aral or magkuha ng degree ng Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, you will have a subject called topology, and you will learn more about nodes, and then you will be able to say, wow, so networking is based on topology or graph theory, which are all mathematics. So, yeah. Well, anyway, kung sino lang, no? Kung sino lang ang gusto mag BS Math. Anyway, moving on. So now that we have a client server, centralized na. Meron kang central server. Kaya nga server ang tawag sa kanya, serve. No? Centralized server, in which is doon lang sa kanya nakakabit lahat ng mga nodes. At siya na ang mag-manage ng mga bagay-bagay. So, dito na paraan, or itong klase na networking system, they were able to use it in an office and share not just data, but hardware components as well. Because kung nakakabit sa network ang isang printer, then all other computers or all other nodes that are connected in that network could use that printer. Kasi nga meron ng batch processing ang system ng printer, meaning meron na siyang scheduling or queuing system, which means kahit sendan siya ng ilang computer ng ipiprint na file, it will just, batch process. Ibig sabihin, i-line niya yun, i-queue niya, and then isa-isahin niya i-print yung files. So that is one way na natanggal yung spaghetti cable, and also a lot of things as well happened in the peer-to-peer network. At nagkaroon na tayo ng centralized server, and that is now what we call the client-server network. So, ibig sabihin, guys, yung nasa gitna, that is your server, and all the rest of the computers inside the client-server network is called the client. Kung sino na naman yung mahilig mag-internet cafe, you will see that the server is the one with the bantay. Anong tawag dun sa kanya? Server administrator. Okay, sorry. So, yung bantay sa internet cafe, siya ang server administrator. And then, all the rest of the computers within the internet cafe is called the client. Okay? Yun ang client-server network. So, let's just give a history of how it really happened, kung paano naisip ng mga tao na magkaroon ng network. No? So, yun na nga, meron tayong isang computer, another computer, and they wanted these computers to talk with each other. Kasi nga, ang daming issue, ang daming troubles na nangyari noong wala pa tayong connection within or among the computers. Nang nagdami ang computer kasi, no? Let's say in a certain office, gusto nila mag-connect lahat within a network. So they tried connecting each of the PCs or the computers via cables. So something like that, no? Meron na siyang cable lahat. And therefore, pwede ka nang mag-send from PC 1, from the upper left side, that is 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pwede na siyang mag-send ngayon ng data through this cable or these cabling wires. Ang issue nila, guys, is that pag ganito yung setup, pag si computer 1 mag-send kay computer 6, the data will be sent to all of them kasi nga interconnected silang lahat. So privacy ngayon ang issue, no? Kasi supposed to be para kay computer 6 lang, pero nababasa ni computer 2, nababasa ni computer 3, nababasa ni computer 4, nababasa ni computer 5. And we all know, in a certain workplace environment, hindi, merong mga information na hindi kailangan malaman ng mga nasa low-level management. Kailangan alam lang ng nasa higher up o nasa mid-level. We don't know, no? So, privacy ang issue sa ganitong setup. So, what they did is they put in a hub. A hub is a networking device. So, what it does is it connects everybody. But again, no, it's just going to, mirror. Hindi, reflect. There you go. Reflect the message to all of the computers included or connected to the hub. So, aside from privacy, may issue din about capacity. Kasi yung supposed to be, isi-send mo lang sa isang computer, sinend mo sa iba pa. So, nag-i-exponential ang ating time. Okay? I hope you understood exponential. Hindi lang exponential, nagta-times 2 or nagta-times 3, depende kung ilang computer ang nakakabit sa hub, right? So instead na ang message mo is computer 1 to 6, dumadami because again, nagre-reflect nga. So computer 1 to 2, computer 1 to 3, computer 1 to 4, computer 1 to 5, computer 1 to 6. So imbis na isahan lang sana, no? Yung transaction, yung processing, dumadami. So again, this causes bottleneck. Anong ibig sabihin ng bottleneck? try nyo good lagyan ng sand ang isang bottle ng Coke or bottle of the ketchup, I don't know. And then try nyo siya biglang ibuhos. Di ba magbagal or mas-stuck minsan sa gitna or yung doon banda sa end, doon banda sa stem portion ng bottle? That is what we call a bottleneck, and it sometimes happens with this type of setup. No? So for example, kung si letter A, ang isa lang sa ang isa sa advantage, I should say, ng hub is that it created a little bit of separation or division. Kasi yung nandun sa taas, guys, nakakonect sa taas, it is different from the connection below. So for example nga, kung si computer 1 gustong mag-send dito kay computer 3, then the hub can simply use the upper portion of the network. So at least, no, that is okay. So ibig sabihin, itong tatlo sa baba, naka-standby lang magtanggap ng message. Or, for example, si computer 4 gustong mag-send kay computer 6, that can be handled by the hub. That is okay. But then what if computer 1 wants to send a message to computer 6? Here comes the issue now. Because the hub will actually use the entire network now. No? Hindi pa siya maka-identify kung baga pa. So, once again, has something to do with capacity and time it takes for the transaction to proceed. So, naisip ng mga computer scientists before, how about we create another networking device which will help us with this? And this is what we call the switch. With the same concept as the integrated chip or ICs, no? I-switch lang natin yung message. Remember, ang nagadaloy na message lang naman dyan, guys, is binary. And remember, sinabi ko rin kanina, ano yung binary? Kung 1, mataas ang voltage. Kung 0, mababa ang voltage. It's just electricity, no? Dumadaloy sa cable. Now, ang switch, ang concept ng switch is that i-switch niya ang signal papunta sa tamang computer system. Okay, so for example, kung ito si computer 1, mag-send ng message kay computer 6, isi-switch yan ni switch, no? Sorry ha, kasi ang pangalan ng concept at saka pangalan ng networking device is the same. Switch pareho, no? So, i-switch yan siya using the media access control address or the MAC address. And every computer actually merong MAC address. So, ibig sabihin, hahanapin niya yung if specific MAC address na gustong sendan ni computer 1 at doon lang niya isi-switch yung signal para yung computer lang na yun ang makaka-receive ng message. Now, as you can see, na-solve niya ang capacity, na-solve niya ang time, na-resolve niya rin ang bottleneck, no? And aside from that, you now have that concept na ang isang computer system ay merong address. Meron siyang identity that could separate it or distinguish it from other computers within a certain network. Nagkaroon na tayo ng concept na ganun. Okay? So, that is the switch. Now, of course, as usual, nagkakaroon talaga tayo ng upgrading, and people there in the networking industry thought, why not mag-upgrade pa tayo into something that has a very upgraded system? Routing technology. Kaya na ngayon i-reroute at i-route ng router, kaya nga router ang tawag sa kanya, or actually, I don't know the proper pronunciation. Some people say router, some people say router, I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Doon na yung nakasanayan ko, guys, router. So, i-route niya na ngayon ang message using a different thing from MAC address. So, let's say still, ito si computer 1, grabe talaga ang ka-love niya kay computer 6, mahilig siya mag-send ng message kay computer 6. But this time around, the router is not going to use the MAC address. It's going to use the IP address or the Internet Protocol address. Because even local area networks, the computer will be able, or the router, I should say, will be able to assign a local IP address and will be able to use that address for different types of transaction. So as you can see, nandun na tayo, no? Malapit na tayo kasi nagsabi na tayo ng internet. Meron na tayong internet protocol address. Meron na tayong IP. Now, with this kind of system, with this kind of infrastructure, we were able to create local area networks. And then people be like, paano yung isang malaking company? Yung isang malaking company na sa Davao City, meron siyang office sa Buhangin, may office din siya sa Mintal, at may office din siya sa Matina. What are we going to do with that? How are we going to connect them? And so they thought of a WAN. or wide area network. Now, itong wide area network, they be like, ooh, sobrang nang yaman ng company natin. Meron na rin kaming meron na rin kaming office sa Europe, sa UK, at saka sa Switzerland, at saka sa Norway. Meron na rin kami sa Asia, like in China and whatsoever. Now, mas pinalawak pa ngayon ang interconnectivity, and so we were able to form the interconnected networks, or that is just the internet. Yan ang totoong pangalan ng internet, guys. It's interconnected networks. So, as you can see, a very simple, a very simple idea again. Gusto lang na, or just as a problem na kailangan ng solusyon. No? Dati, nahihirapan lang talaga tayong mag-data transfer. May nahihirapan lang mag-communicate between two computers. And nowadays, it's entire systems, it's entire networks connected to one another. Now, guys, what do you call this one? I'm not sure about you, but there was a time when I was a first year high school in computer science, I kept asking my teacher, ano po ba kasi ang internet? No, can you explain to me what is the internet? And somehow, wala akong nakuhang sagot. So, I had to learn it on my own, no? So, guys, ang interconnected network or ang internet is a hodgepodge or a cumulative connections with different types of technology. Kasi yung nabanggit ko lang sa inyo is hub, switch, and router, right? What about bridges? Meron din kasi tayong tinatawag na bridge, and it connects different types of networks. What about the wireless switch or the wireless router? Saan na ba dumadaan yung data, yung voltage na sinasabi ko, yung 101010? Believe it or not, it's in the air. Yes, it's in a frequency. It's using either radio frequency. It's using a wave frequency. Okay? So, technically, nalalanghap niyo yung yung 1010 yung binary dyan sa air, nasa frequency siya. But it is in a frequency na hindi natin makita, hindi natin marinig. Okay? But it is right there. It's being transferred right now. So it's a hodgepodge. It's a collection of all this technology that works together, that connects with each other to form an interconnected network. Okay? So that is the entirety or really a basic look of networking. Okay? So, anyway, last na ba yun? Yeah, last na yun. So, I guess that's it for Module 2, and I really hope you were able to understand something or learn something from this module. And I'm sorry sometimes if I'm like, with the way I explain things, I'm like passionate. So, well, I don't know as well. Sometimes kasi ako yung napafascinate sa mga bagay-bagay na ito. And these are things that weren't taught to me in college kasi I had to learn it on my own. That's why whenever I tell it to you guys or teach it to you guys, it comes from my own understanding, kung paano ko siya naintindihan. Well, anyway, just to show you something, guys, let me show my entire screen. Just to show you that we are really in an interconnected networks, So this is the command prompt of the computer, okay? And then we can actually trace the computer kung paano siya nakakapunta sa server ng Google. Madami kasing dinadaanan, guys. And by the way, these numbers, itong 142.251.220.78, that is an example of an IP address. And again, every computer in a network merong specific IP address. Okay? So as you can see, yung nakikita nyo dyan na yung 1, 2 milliseconds, 4 milliseconds, 2 milliseconds, nag-connect siya sa ibang IP address or sa ibang network, and then mag-connect na naman yung network na yun sa ibang network, at mag-connect na naman yung network na yun sa ibang network hanggang maabot niya ang pinakamalapit na Google server. Okay? So it doesn't, hindi siya, guys, kung isipin niyo kung mag-connect kayo sa Google, tignan niyo, merong time na nawala ng internet yung isang network na napuntahan natin. Yan yung tinatawag na request timed out, no? This is really good kung makahanap kayo ng guys, sa Google, kung makahanap kayo ng trace route na merong map, and then you'll realize na dumadaan pa sa ibang country bago makapunta sa server ng Google ang connection ninyo. But then this happens in split seconds. As you can see, millisecond. So it went to itong connection ko to google.com right now, ito yung ito yung IP address ko, 192.168.1.1. So it went to this network, yung 110.115.2.1, and then to 9898.98.1, And then 4, ito. So, ilan ang ginaanan niya na network? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Merong nawalan ng internet. 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 networks bago tawag dito, nakakonect ang aking network papunta sa google.com na server. So, I hope you saw how it is really, yung sa picture kanina, na nag-connect ng isang network, mag-connect na naman siya sa isang network, mag-connect na naman siya sa isang network. So really, internet will not work if the systems are down. Okay? So it really connects with different localized networks. And this is how the internet works. Okay, so I hope I did not confuse you lalo. I'm not sure kung na-confuse kayo or na-enlighten kayo because of that example. But, I hope you were able to at least imagine the things that happening behind the scene. Kung paano lang tayo, nag-Google search lang tayo, akala natin yun lang yun siya. But a lot of things are happening behind the scenes, no? Na ginagawa ng computer natin at milliseconds. Not even a second, but milliseconds. So, a lot of things really are happening. So, for example lang again, kung meron sa inyo ang gustong mag-computer science or mag-IT or whatnot, these are all the things that you will be able to learn in your college years and would possibly be able to help or to work on when you have your careers, inshallah. So, any questions so far? Ano yun, Hayuni? May tina-type si Hayuni? Pwede kayo mag one time, big time, guys, but I really highly advise na gawin nyo na siya agad kaysa yung mag-bottleneck. Kaysa magkaroon ng bottleneck. Ano po ang sagutan sa Module 1 Teach? Yung Activity 1.0 lang, Abdul. And then yung by group ninyo na performance task. I think no more. So anyway, again, I hope you were able to understand something or learn something from this module. And thank you so much for attending the class today. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.